Hi guys, it's me, ChazzaHD, and welcome to the watch-along for the first ever sprint qualifying race in Formula 1 history for the 2021 British Grand Prix. Hopefully you guys are doing well on what is for me a very, very hot Saturday late afternoon. Very hot in my part of the UK, and at the Silverstone circuit as well, it is extremely hot for this 17-lap sprint qualifying race that we're getting underway, as you can see on the screen, in about 14 minutes time. Now, at the end of the day, with this stream, originally I wasn't going to do this, but I decided to give you guys the vote as to, whether you guys wanted me to do this. You voted yes, and of course I'm a man of my word, so I am going to try my best to maintain as much professionalism as I can, but I will be taking the piss out of it probably a few times during this stream, because at the end of the day, it's an idea that I really hate, and I just don't think, even if we do get some action in this sprint race, I just don't think I'll ever like it. I don't think I ever will, and I don't blame anyone who will never say if they never grow to like this idea, because it is very hard to like something like this. And even the drivers, I don't think any of them have voiced definite approval of this idea, because when they've been interviewed about it, they'll say, well, we should sometimes try new ideas, which is basically not answering the question and is basically saying, well, no, but we have no control over the situation. That's basically what they're saying. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Like I said, I don't support the idea. I don't think it will be anywhere near as good as the people who do support this idea think it will be. It's only 17 laps. I don't think we're going to get that many overtakes. I think the only real possibility of real action is the first couple laps, and if we get a safety car. If we don't get really that much action on the first lap or so, and there's not a safety car, then I don't see this being much of anything. And if you look at the last few British Grand Prix at Silverstone, most of them tend to get better in the latter stages of the Grand Prix, especially the races last year. So only 17 laps. I don't really see what's going to happen here that's going to be that exciting. I mean, hopefully we get something of interest to watch, but I'm not going to sit here and lie, is basically what I'm saying, and pretend that I don't, or that I support this idea and that this is, some great action, because I just don't like it at the end of the day. Because for me, it goes completely against the traditions of motorsport, which, at the end of the day, deciding the grid for a race, it should be like, qualifying, which we had, of course, yesterday. And I've got to say, yesterday's qualifying session, because of this sprint qualifying today, even though we had the normal qualifying yesterday, it ruined qualifying for me yesterday, because it didn't mean as much. It really didn't mean anything, qualifying yesterday. And it was on a Friday. And even though the session itself was pretty exciting, because of this, it just doesn't really mean anything, that session. All the emotion behind Lewis Hamilton getting pole position in front of a packed Silverstone crowd. The first packed crowd, or one of the first packed crowds we've had for a Grand Prix since COVID came around. It just completely eliminated that. And now we're going to have this, which, well, I think F1's basically watching this to just see whether it's going to be an absolute just miserable experience, or whether it's going to be something that is possibly going to be used in the future. My hope is that it will turn out like the failed new qualifying format from the early part of 2016, which was only used for 2 races. If this flops, then I'm hoping it will only be used for this race and we'll never see it again, but you never know. They might persist and insist that this idea can work, even though I don't think it can. But like I said, we'll see what happens. We'll get through the grid in a moment of what's going to happen. And really, we'll go through the qualifying results now of what happened in yesterday's session. So Lewis Hamilton is starting for this race on pole position, from Max Verstappen second, Bottas third, Leclerc fourth, Perez fifth, and then the rest of the top 10 is Norris, Ricciardo, Russell, Sainz, and Vettel. Again, with this in place on a Saturday and qualifying yesterday, it doesn't quite in terms of Russell, for example, they're in P8. that would have been so much greater, that result, if it took place on a Saturday and it had been a normal weekend, in my opinion. But there you go. And then the rest of the order: Alonso, Gasly, Ocon, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin. And that is the grid for the sprint race. And the rules are, it's 17 laps, or basically half an hour. That's how long the race is going to be, around about half an hour. And then there's also free tyre choice, so the teams can start on whatever tyre compound they want. No mandatory pit stops, even though if there is a safety car at the right time, I do think we could see some pit stops, because it would be then advantageous to get on a fresh set of tyres. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, no mandatory pit stops, 17 laps. They can start whatever tyre they want to. And also, the winner of this sprint qualifying race will get 3 World Championship points. The person finishing in second will get 2 World Championship points, and the person finishing third will get only 1 World Championship point. So, in terms of the Drivers' Championship, depending on any trouble that possibly happens for either Hamilton or Verstappen, it might actually be a kind of important session. But if one of them, if they both have a completely fine race in terms of not having any issues, and they both finish first or second, doesn't really matter in what order, then only 1 point in either direction doesn't really make a difference to the World Championship at the end of the day. So I don't think it will have a massive effect on the championship, unless one of them doesn't get in that top 3 by the end of the 17 laps. But yeah, those are the rules for this session. These are the pictures I'll be using for the watch-along part of the stream. And again, the session gets underway in about 7.5 minutes' time. And for the final 7.5 minutes, I want you guys right now in the live chat to comment what you think of this sprint race idea, and whether you think this sprint race coming up will actually work, in your honest opinion. And also let me know, what do you think will happen in terms of the results? What do you think the top 5 will be in this sprint qualifying race? Let me know right now in the live chat, and I'll read out as many comments as I can before the session itself gets underway. Just want to say though, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notifications bell for more F1 content for race weekends, because I will be live tomorrow 3 times. Firstly, for the race preview at 12 PM UK time, then live again at 2:30 PM UK time for the race watch-along, and then I'll be live at 8 PM UK time for the race review for the British Grand Prix. And thankfully, tomorrow is a normal race day. No fancy gimmicks or anything like that. So yeah, don't forget to come along to that tomorrow, and hopefully we'll see you guys for that. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Bottom right of the screen, you can do it right there, or just go to my channel page and do it there. And whilst you're there, hit the notifications bell. And also, don't forget to smash a like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. But let's see what you guys have to say. Vincent Otis says, I'm open to trying different situations every now and then. It helps to keep the teams on their toes. I disagree. I think, honestly, rule changes, I think, are the best way to keep teams on their toes. And those, rule changes, they're a lot more natural in terms of mixing things up in the tradition of motorsport, rather than, doing this. This is just, for me, veering off into a dangerous territory, because what I think will happen is, if this idea succeeds, this will not be the last gimmick they'll introduce. What they want Formula One, because they've seen somehow with Formula E how those gimmicks in Formula E have been supported by the masses. They want to bring Formula One more in line with Formula E, in my view, because Formula E definitely has been, or is, more popular amongst the, say, younger generation. And that's what they want. They want that younger generation of fans. And what they want is to make Formula One more so like Formula E. And also because Formula E, the technology they're using in Formula E is a bit more modern. They want to shape it more towards that for that reason as well. And I just think if this idea succeeds, I could easily see in a few years fan boost and the, what do you call it? The other boost thing where if you go offline, you get if you drive through a zone, you get another boost. Can't remember what it is, but it's a fucking shit idea that should not have seen the light of day. And I just think Formula One will go in that direction if this idea succeeds. I have no problem with tweaking sessions and how they're run, but I just think sessions in terms of a race weekend schedule, they should be held still within the traditions of motorsport, such as you get your practice, 2 or 3 sessions, say 2 at least. If you want to have just 2, that's fine. Qualifying to set the grid, which is the normal case, not just in Formula One, but in all forms of motorsport, having single laps rather than having to overtake people to set the grid for the Grand Prix. Again, in motorsport tradition, that is fine. I have no problem with them tweaking how long the session is or how it's done, but as long as it stays to drivers on a single lap having to set their best time to qualify in a certain position on the grid, then I'm fine with it at the end of the day, even though I think some qualifying systems over the past have not really worked. At least they've tried to maintain it within the motorsport tradition. This is not. This is not within motorsport tradition at all. This is a gimmick, without doubt. And like I said, I think this, if this gets off the ground and is successful for them, then it'll be, the case of letting them have an inch and then they'll go take hundreds of miles, I think, with plenty of just stupid ideas. Let's see some other comments here. It is what it is. Let's go. And then someone in the chat there supporting, I think, Kazuki, I think it is. Supporting the Honda boys. Let me find some other comments here from you guys. Astro Stewart says, my suggested tweak here would be to make it more of a sprint too by cutting it to say 10 laps or maybe even less. And KG saying you shouldn't have to race in order to qualify. Exactly. Within motorsport tradition, qualifying is literally how fast you are over a single lap, because obviously you can't decide who is purely the quickest when you're having to deal with other cars literally next to you, in front of you, behind you, all of that. And that, again, it goes against the traditions of motorsport, and I just think it's an idea that I think without doubt, if it succeeds, it will get worse in terms of gimmicks and that. And Astro Steve was saying another thing, which is actually true, and I think I'll get some of the graphics ready now for the session because it is only 1 minute away. Time management is still going to be an issue in this session because it's 17 laps, and this track does wear out tyres pretty quickly because how long the corners are. So if there's people out there on the soft compound tyre, give it, 7 or 8 laps, and they'll start to struggle quite a lot. And then for the final 10 laps, they'll be looking after their tyres, hoping they finish in a decent position. That's not qualifying, because qualifying is supposed to be running at your absolute quickest to get the best position on the grid. So that's just, for me, just awful. But anyway, let's get rid of this stuff and get the graphics ready. So on the left-hand side is the starting grid, which I will read out in just a moment. Here, there's a picture of Mr. Saturday. Can he do it on a Saturday in a different session? We'll have to see. And let me also get up this. So, the lap, or the race, sprint race has not started as of yet. Like I said, it will be a 17-lap affair. And the starting grid, as they're about to do the formation lap for the sprint qualifying race, I'll tell you when the formation lap gets underway, and then I will get through the starting grid here. And the formation lap is underway. Should be underway. And there you go, right now. So the sprint qualifying formation lap is underway. The starting grid is Lewis Hamilton in first, Verstappen second, Bottas third, Leclerc fourth, Perez fifth, Norris sixth, Ricciardo seventh, Russell 8th, Sainz in 9th, Vettel 10th, and then Alonso, Gasly, Ocon, Giovinazzi, Stroll, Tsunoda, Raikkonen, Latifi, Schumacher, and Mazepin completing the rest of the grid. Let me just have a quick cough off mic before we get into this. As Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen, by the way, just coming into the start of the second sector. So, the starting tyres, everyone is on the mediums except for Valtteri Bottas, Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon and Kimi Raikkonen. Bottas, Alonso, Ocon and Raikkonen are on the soft compound tyres, so they're going to try and be racy and get their way up the grid. I can understand why Raikkonen, Alonso and Ocon are doing it, but not really Valtteri Bottas, because I think he'll struggle a lot in the final few laps of this sprint race, especially compared to Perez, who will be pretty quick on the medium later in the... whatever the fuck this is. It's definitely not a Grand Prix. I'm not going to call it that. As now, Hamilton and Verstappen coming through Maggots, Beckett's, and just about now, Lewis Hamilton coming through Chapel. At the end of the second sector. As showing, they're showing on the F1 broadcast previous polls. And unfortunately, I have to let you guys know that Lewis Hamilton's pole position yesterday doesn't count as a pole position, which I think is really poor, because that lap he did was great. Great atmosphere, you know, was just really great overall, yet it's not going to count on the record books. It basically means nothing. Well, it does mean nothing at the end of the day. As Hamilton, Verstappen and Bottas now coming to the final chicane to begin this sprint shit race, as we now have the front 6, 7, 8 coming through that final chicane. And we'll see what happens here. I mean, of course, between Verstappen and Hamilton, it'll be very important for them in terms of who starts the race on the pole position. In terms of who wins this race, it will be important for them. But I still think, even if it was to remain as it was, I don't think that would necessarily mean that it would make Lewis Hamilton or Max Verstappen clear favourite for victory tomorrow, because it is still very close between those two drivers and the two teams as well. As we've got half the grid now lined up for this session, and the final cars now getting lined up. Also, fuel is not really going to be that big of an issue. As the people in the garages, Toto Wolff and then Christian Horner on the Red Bull pit wall, just waiting for the qualifying race to begin, as Latifi, Schumacher and now Mazepin line up on the grid. And now the lights come on for the sprint qualifying race, and it's now 5 lights. And away they go. Let's see who gets away best. And it is clearly Max Verstappen. So Max Verstappen is into the lead from Lewis Hamilton in second. And then Bottas is third. Leclerc is currently in fourth. There's a Red Bull that's had a poor start and is in between at the moment 2 McLarens. There's an Alpine who started very well. I think it's Fernando Alonso. There's a Haas car at the back who spun. It's probably our favourite driver in the world, Mr. Mazepin. As Hamilton now right in the slipstream of Max Verstappen, coming down to, was it turn 6, now through turn 7. But Verstappen maintains the lead. So Verstappen leading from Hamilton second, Bottas third, Leclerc fourth, and then I think it's Lando Norris in fifth. There's Verstappen defending to the inside, going to Copse corner, and Hamilton going to try and go around the outside, but that's not going to work. And Verstappen maintains position. There's an Alpine up to fifth. Don't know who it is. They're not showing it on the running order right now on the TV broadcast, but I think it's Fernando Alonso. It is Fernando Alonso is up in fifth place. Of course, he started on the soft compound tyre. as Verstappen trying to break the toe back there. So Alonso is 5th, Norris is 6th, Perez is 7th. Well, not really anymore. Well, no, he is, as he maintains position ahead of Ricciardo. By the way, Carlos Sainz is down in 18th place. Very bad for him. So Alonso is 5th, Norris 6th, and then Perez 7th. Let me just do the lap counter. So we're now on lap 2 out of 17. And it is Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Alonso, your top 5. Then Norris, Perez, Ricciardo, and then Sebastian Vettel is in 9th. Russell is in 10th. P11 is Esteban Ocon. And then 12th is Pierre Gasly. Kimi Raikkonen has had a good start, of course, on the soft tyre. He's now on or in 13th place. Lance Stroll is 14th, and now they're going to replay the start quickly. And Verstappen's left front brake actually caught fire. Flames coming out of it. But that will, of course, now go away. And his start compared to Hamilton was so much better. Literally, as soon as they leapt off the grid, Max Verstappen was into the lead of this qualifying race. Bottas also had a good start, but couldn't really get enough alongside Hamilton to make it stick down into turn 1. And then Norris was desperately trying to go around the outside of Charles Leclerc, but just didn't have enough grip compared to the Ferrari, as Perez had quite a poor start. And Fernando Alonso just simply used his experience, nous, and his soft tyres very well, as now they're just showing a replay of the third lap, or of the first lap, sorry, as we're on lap 3. That's what I was trying to say. We're on lap 3 out of 17. There's a replay there of Russell and Sainz. They made contact at turn 6, and that's why Carlos Sainz is down in 18th place. And here's a replay, and it is, Mazepin, who makes contact with his teammate Mick Schumacher and spins around. Living up very well there to his nickname. Lap 3, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bottas, Leclerc, Alonso, Norris, Perez, Ricciardo, Vettel, Russell, and then outside of the top 10, it's Ocon, Gasly, Raikkonen, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Sainz is in 16th place, and then you've got Latifi 17th, Tsunoda 18th, and then Schumacher and Mazepin at the back. Verstappen leading the sprint qualifying race by a second at the moment. I'm going to try my best to not say Grand Prix, because this is not a Grand Prix at all. As Alonso will probably struggle on that tyre now, because he doesn't have a car as quick as the McLarens, Red Bulls behind, as he's weaving all over the place to break the slipstream, which I'm not quite sure is that legal, but, drivers have got to try something to hold back their rivals. But Alonso will struggle a lot on that tyre, because the soft tyre is just not a suitable tyre for even 10 laps around this circuit, as we saw last year. As we're now on lap 4, and the order remains as it is. As Carlos Sainz, I've just seen, has overtaken Antonio Giovinazzi. So Carlos Sainz is up into 15th place. That's probably going to be the biggest mover through the field, because Sainz does have a car that is a lot quicker than where he put it in qualifying, and also where it is compared to the cars just ahead of him, such as the Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, Williams, etc., etc. As Norris is maintaining just about ahead of Sergio Perez as they come through now Copse Corner. And Perez looking a bit desperate in 7th place. He's not really had that good of a weekend, and of course for the race on Sunday does want to set himself up with a good grid position, but starting the race from P7 would be the complete opposite of that. And another thing, as Alonso continues to weave down the straight, which I'm sorry is completely against the rules. I don't care what anyone says. Can't weave down the straight repeatedly. That is literally breaking the rules. As we're now on lap 5. out of 17. Verstappen now leading by 1.6 seconds. So it appears that... oh no, let me just put it back to lap 5 out of 17 there. It appears that Verstappen has pretty much checked out up front. I'd be surprised if Hamilton would overtake him in the next 12 laps. Be very surprised by that. I was going to say, one thing I don't like that I've already noticed is anyone who wants to get, an even better position in for the race that they deserve, they can just start on the softer compound tyre, as Norris feigns a move up the inside of turn 6, but he's not going to get a move done there, as I don't know what these graphics are they're using. Looks like Call of Duty graphics on Fernando Alonso's car there. Or F1 game graphics, actually. That's what it looks like a bit. Yeah, what I've noticed that's really a bit of a problem is, people who don't really deserve to be up in 5th or 6th can use a softer tyre to get themselves up there, hold off the rest of the field for a few laps until the end, and then get to start in a position where they don't deserve to be. Because I'm telling you now, and Sergio Perez is spun off massively at the exit of Chapel, and Sergio Perez will be starting the race probably at the back of the grid as he's come back out in 18th or now 19th position, as we're now on lap 6 out of 17. And here's a replay of Perez on the exit of Chapel I think it's at turn 13, and just simply got too trigger happy on the throttle, which is unusual for him because normally he's very easy on the throttle pedal, but not that time. Perez all the way down, and Perez will try and stay out because Lando Norris, by the way, has passed Fernando Alonso for 5th. There you go. There you go. Norris is up into 5th place, and he should now easily pull away from Fernando Alonso. As we've got now, Norris 5th, Alonso 6th, Ricciardo, Vettel, Russell, and then Ocon 10th, and then Gasly in 11th, Raikkonen 12th. As here's Norris's overtake. Good overtake through turn 2, and then just throws it down the inside. Alonso didn't even fight it, just let him through, which is not great, but there you go. As under investigation is Russell and Sainz for that contact on the first lap. Carlos Sainz, by the way, is up to 13th. Stroll is 14th, and then you've got Giovinazzi 15th, Tsunoda 16th, Latifi 17th, and then Mick Schumacher is 18th, just ahead of Sergio Perez as Max Verstappen does another new fastest lap and is 1.7 seconds clear of Lewis Hamilton. With only 10 laps to go, thankfully. There you go. And, now the only real action I can see happening here is Alonso's descent down the field and what the other cars behind are going to do about him. But because of the dirty air effect on these cars, I mean, Norris, yes, did pass him quite easily down into turn 3, but it's going to be hard with, the dirty air effect that the car behind will suffer from. It'll be hard for those cars to get enough chances to overtake, so might be a bit of a train here initially. Good news for the moment, though, is that Russell and the Williams is still in 9th, which would be a good position for him to start the Grand Prix from. As Verstappen is, Verstappen's definitely going to start the Grand Prix on pole here because he's 1.7 seconds ahead of Hamilton, and Hamilton just doesn't have the pace to get after Max Verstappen here in these final 10 laps. As Perez, by the way, has passed Mick Schumacher for 18th position. So Perez up to 18th. And now Fernando Alonso still ahead of Daniel Ricciardo. As long as Fernando Alonso just keeps getting a good release from the corners before the DRS zones, then he should be absolutely fine, at least for a few more laps. Because one thing that will help is because they're on lower fuel, it won't be as bad being on that tyre as it would if you were to start the race with, 52 laps worth of fuel on board. So it won't be as bad as it would be if it was a real race, but there you go. As Ricciardo is coming through now, turn 5 onto the straight, heading towards turn 6. DRS wide open. Alonso defends to the inside. And race control decided that Russell and Sainz will be investigated after the session. But yeah, like I said, I think this, again, Fernando Alonso being this high up, which I have no problem with Alonso doing well. I really like Alonso, and I hope he does do well. But, like I said, maybe not him, but Alpine do not deserve to be up in 6th place because they don't have a car that's quick enough to be up there. We saw in qualifying, Alpine were around 10th or 11th, and now Alonso, because he was able to start the race on the sprint qualifying race on a soft tyre, is now probably going to start a few positions higher than he actually deserves to be. That should not be the case, because qualifying is supposed to determine who is on pure pace with, lowest fuel, the quickest, instead of, who got the strategy right over a 17-lap gimmicked race. It's not supposed to be that way. But you're now on lap 9 out of 17, and still Daniel Ricciardo is behind Fernando Alonso. Ricciardo getting close through turn 3, and he's going to slip it up the inside of Alonso. Alonso at turn 4. Alonso, though, will try to come back at him. Will Alonso get back past? We'll have to see. Ricciardo defends to the inside. Alonso will try around the outside, but that's not going to work. Now Alonso will try again around the outside of Luffield. His only hope now is getting a slipstream towards Copse and possibly getting back past, which I'm not sure if that will happen for him or not. He will try to go around the outside of Ricciardo, but he doesn't quite have the grip on those tyres to do so. So, Daniel Ricciardo is up to 6th place. And the rest of the order is as it was. Except, actually, I've just seen that Carlos Sainz is now P12, as we are now on. Let me just update the picture there. We are now on lap 10 out of 17. And Verstappen still leading comfortably from Lewis Hamilton in this sprint quali. And they're just showing a replay here of Carlos Sainz passing Kimi Räikkönen towards Copse. Is he going to go right round the outside? Yes, he is. That's a decent move there by Carlos. As now the next person to depose of Alonso is his old rival, Sebastian Vettel, who is currently sat in 8th, and if he gets this position, then starts the race from 7th, which would be pretty good for Aston Martin, especially considering, I believe, that the drivers will start the race on whatever tyre compound they want, and we know the Aston Martin has the best tyre life of anyone on the grid, which was proven back in Monaco and Baku, and even France as well. So Vettel up in 7th on the grid would be a very strong position, and he would be a dark horse for a strong result on the race, or in the race on Sunday. But at the moment, he's not able to get close enough to Fernando Alonso, as Russell is about 1.2 seconds behind Sebastian Vettel, as Lewis Hamilton now on lap 11 does the new fastest lap, and it's 1.7 seconds behind, and Hamilton's fastest lap of 1:30.0. As here's a replay of, I think, yeah, it is Fernando Alonso, and yeah, on the soft tyre gets a great start compared to Carlos Sainz. He goes right round the outside of Sainz and Vettel, and then gets past Russell as well, and then goes round the outside as well of Norris, and then of Ricciardo, sorry, and then goes up the inside of Perez, and then makes the move stick eventually later on that lap. As Alonso still about 0.6 of a second ahead of Sebastian Vettel, who is gaining quickly in the Mercedes-powered Aston Martin. And of course, the Aston Martin in a straight line is very quick. So, as long as Sebastian on the exit of a corner right before a DRS zone is about half a second behind, should be able to get the move done here. As on the run to Copse, Vettel closes the gap, but is still not close enough. By the way, Charles Leclerc is only 2.5 seconds and gaining, actually, on Valtteri Bottas. He's about 2.3 seconds behind Bottas. Remember, Bottas is on the soft tyre. So Bottas is continuously losing time because he's on a tyre that is just not good at all. Same with Fernando Alonso. That's why Alonso is dropping back through the field. So watch out for that, Bottas and Leclerc, because Leclerc might get to start the race in third. And given how good he is, you never know, he could probably finish in third as well in tomorrow's race. As Verstappen has extended his lead now on lap 12 out of 17 to 2 seconds. Hamilton saying, I'm giving everything. Have you got any more power? And then they respond, stand by, Lewis. We are looking into it. The answer is probably going to be no, because they don't want to risk blowing the power unit going into the race. As now we've got a DRS train behind Fernando Alonso of course, Alonso, and then Vettel, Russell, Ocon, Gasly, Sainz. Raikkonen has dropped back quite a bit now in 13th because he's also on the soft tyre, and he will also be struggling quite a bit. And as long as if Vettel can't pass Alonso, then none of these guys will be able to pass anyone because the DRS train is unforgiving, I'm afraid. As Verstappen and Hamilton already about to complete lap 12, and Alonso, Vettel, Sainz, all these cars in 7th, 8th, 9th, only just halfway through the lap, so it shows you the pace difference through in this sprint quali race. As we're now on lap 13 out of 17. And to be honest, it's not turned out to be as bad rather as I hoped it would be. But I don't see how you could call this race a success, really. I mean, we had some good racing, the first lap or two, and then ever since then, all it's been is cars passing Fernando Alonso. That's all it's been. I don't see how you could call this race a success in any way, shape, or form. It's been not even average, maybe just below average, like a 3 or a 4 out of 10 at best. This is really nothing to get excited about. As Verstappen and Hamilton are about halfway through the sprint race. Or not halfway through the sprint race, but they're halfway through the lap of lap 13 on this, or in this sprint quali race. As Vettel getting very close now behind Fernando Alonso, but Alonso getting a very good release from Luffield, also known as turn 7. And, by the way, Sergio Perez still down in 18th, obviously struggling. Probably his tyres have quite a big vibration on them, as we're now on lap 14, as Max Verstappen does a new fastest lap, and Max Verstappen will be starting the race on pole position unless he has a massive issue. But Alonso now begins his weaving to prevent a attack, but I don't think, Vettel's nowhere near close enough, so Alonso won't need to do so. And Vettel simply just cannot get a good enough release from the corners. Obviously, the Aston Martin doesn't have as much grip as the McLarens, which are way now gone up the road from Alonso and Vettel. And that is affecting Sebastian in his run here. But, Sebastian starting the race in P8, that'd be pretty good. But I have to say, as Carlos Sainz we've just seen has passed Pierre Gasly, P11. So Carlos Sainz is up into P11. Also, Ferrari is much quicker than the AlphaTauri this weekend. Rooksfoot saying, pretty boring without the length. It's just fastest car and mistakes. No time for strategy to mix stuff up. That's the thing that I think people underrate, is how interesting strategy is in Formula 1 when it comes to cars pitting and what tyre they use and how long they go on certain tyres. It makes definitely the races a lot more interesting. I was seeing a replay of Carlos Sainz undercutting past Pierre Gasly on the exit of turn 17, which is the second or the final part of the final chicane. Yeah, I think people underrate the importance and also the excitement of strategy, because I actually think with the tyres we have in Formula 1, with cars pitting at different points, and it, having the race at the end of the race where you got people on different tyres in terms of compounds, but also people on fresher tyres, older tyres, it does make things very interesting, and it has this season made things interesting, especially when it comes to the battle between the front two. By the way, Verstappen leading by 3 seconds from Lewis Hamilton. But with this, it's like Rooksput said, there's no strategy involved. It's literally just, can you manage to pace well on whatever tyre you're on? And, whether you make a mistake or not. There's nothing really great about it, I'm afraid. As Vettel still nowhere near close enough to get past here. Scoop Richardson says, I think they should have to pit to add some flair. Well, if it's a 17-lap race, there's no point, is there? Let me see if there's any other comments here. Joseph Powell says, I doubt the main race will be much different. I've not seen anything that will be different except some undercuts and passes in the pits. Well, I disagree, because again, pit strategy does change the result massively from what the starting grid is. So I think, with a 52-lap race, considering how hot it's been this weekend at Silverstone and how long the corners are, we'll definitely see the grid be changing around massively during the race, and I think definitely it's going to be a 2-stop Grand Prix tomorrow. But with this, that's why I just don't get why people think this is going to be such a great idea. When most Grand Prix, if you go and look at most Grand Prix, most of them don't really start swapping around in terms of the finishing positions until the latter stages of the race. This is only, a quarter of a Grand Prix or a third of a Grand Prix. So I just don't get... what we're doing here. As we're about to start the final lap of this sprint race of what's been a horrible fucking experience, I have to say. As still, Vettel cannot pass Alonso. And to be honest, considering there's only 1 lap to go, I don't see why Sebastian Vettel is going to take a risk here, because... you don't want to risk starting in 20th if he makes contact with Alonso. As Verstappen starts the final lap, thankfully, of this sprint qualifying race. Let me just see if there's any other comments here. What points do the drivers score in this session? The person who wins, which will be Verstappen, will score 3 points. Hamilton will score 2, and Bottas will score 1. I don't know if Verstappen gets a fastest lap point. I don't think he does. As Sergio Perez, just on team radio, probably already thinking, what am I going to do in the race and what time am I going to start on? Well, if Perez is, he's going to start in 18th. You best start on the hard compound tyre and just run as long into the race as he can get away with. Because he's not going to finish in the top 5, probably. He might finish in the top 5 in, say, 5th place, but I don't see how he's going to get anywhere near a podium in the Grand Prix tomorrow. As Max Verstappen now comes towards the end of this sprint session. Hamilton has closed the gap a bit on this lap, but as Schumacher actually passes Sergio Perez, so I think Perez might just have an issue with his car. And Verstappen and Mazepin now passes Perez too. Verstappen comes to the end of this lap, and Max Verstappen will win the sprint qualifying race. And Lewis Hamilton will finish in second with the fastest laps. So Verstappen extends his championship lead to 33 points. Bottas third. Charles Leclerc fourth. Got to say, Leclerc's pace was pretty good. Wasn't losing too much time to the leaders, only about half a second a lap. So that's pretty good pace from him. And then it should be Norris in 5th, Ricciardo 6th, and then Alonso 7th, Vettel 8th, Russell 9th, Ocon 10th, and then Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen, Stroll, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin, and Perez. As Alonso now comes to the end of this session. And there you go. Alonso finishes in 7th, Vettel 8th, and then Russell, Ocon, Sainz, Gasly, Raikkonen, and Stroll, Giovinazzi, Tsunoda, Latifi, Schumacher, Mazepin, Perez will come through to complete the lap. But there you go, guys. That is the sprint qualifying race. And really, that was just a complete fucking waste of time. Nothing really happened. Yeah, Verstappen passed Hamilton for the lead. Yeah, we had some contact with Russell and Sainz. Alonso had a good start. But really, what happened in that race? And you know what I'm going to do? Just for the final 5-10 minutes. Probably 5 minutes, because I want to forget about this as soon as possible. Let me know what you thought of that race, because I just don't think that was really much of anything. It was just a complete fucking waste of time. Gecko, what's so horrible? It's extra 17 laps of racing to still have normal quali and normal race. But it's not, though, is it? It's not. Because even though the qualifying session is remaining still, its purpose is now completely dead. Completely dead. Because you can have a great, qualifying session where you say you get pole position, you prove you're the quickest driver with the quickest car, and then you can get punted off by some twat in the race, in the sprint race, and then you end up starting the race in last place. See what I mean? It's just it's horrible. It's so bad. Let's see what you guys think, though. That's more important. Let me just see what the other comments here are. Janman says pointless exercise. Absolutely. Martin says the qualifying was a waste of time. Yeah. Vincent Otis says Max will win tomorrow. Where's that other comment I just saw? Joseph Powell says hopefully this race is a good indication of Russell's pace. He did well to hold his position. Yeah, he did pretty well. And I think he could be in that fight. I still don't think he will get it, though, because I think if the race was 52 laps there, I think Russell eventually would have dropped down, because I just don't think that Williams quite has enough endurance on their tyres compared to others. Let me just find some final comments here. Thanks, mate. Appreciate the stream. Thank you very much. Martin says the whole race was stupid. Vincent Otis, thanks for being here, Chaz. We appreciate you and the crew. Thank you. Who said sprint qualifying is good? Let me find him. Kazuki or Icha says sprint qualifying is good. I disagree completely. Ronan says thanks for the stream. Rooksfoot says dumb idea. Eugene Kelly says I hope they don't allow Max to weave tomorrow to stop Hamilton from passing him. Bad luck, Chazza. It's a bad look if anyone does it, to be honest, because you're essentially, you're not making the driver behind scared to go for an overtake, because racing drivers are incredibly brave people and will do just about anything because they're absolutely mental at times with the stuff they do on track. But you're essentially not allowing anyone to come near you. So, it's not right. And plus, I'm pretty sure it's against the rules. You're only allowed to weave, 2 or 3 times. Something different, not great but not bad. Got my racing fix, I guess. Brabham says, like the first 5 laps. Good Richardson says, this shit a waste. Astro Stevo, so you liked it then, Shazza? Don't, seriously. He says, seriously though, yeah, this wasn't good. Weaving is alright, it's a tactic. No, it's called dangerous driving, that's what it's called. Mr. Westy West, sprint race is good, better than having a pointless practice. Well then, if you don't want to have that, then why don't you just get rid of 1 practice session and then keep qualifying on a Saturday? Then there you go. You get your, less practice, which we've actually had less practice this season because all the practice sessions now are an hour long. So it's we have an hour less of practice this year compared to last year. Tom Hutchins says, right, FIA had their fun. Let's never do this again unless it's reverse grid. That's another thing. If you're going to do this idea, which is similar to the F2 version, at least swap some of the grid around. You know what I mean? To make it somewhat similar to, I guess, the successful versions of a sprint race, as they're about to do a tour around the track with the wreaths they're going to put on their heads, and they're going to attempt to be all 70s and 80s there. Dude Pierre says, complete waste of time. Quality was way more exciting. Or quali, I think he means qualifying, was way more exciting. Max will just drive away from the field. If Max gets away at the start, then yeah, I think Max will win the race. Michael Arvin, I shaved my balls for this. What a disappointment. See some other comments here. Rowan, it was a bit of a procession with the risk of drivers going out. Alvin says this sprint quali takes out the stint is most races, as nobody wants to risk losing grid position for tomorrow. I think, to be honest, that definitely played a factor in that battle between Alonso, Vettel, Russell, and all those. They want to be in those positions for the race because it will be good for them. But they don't want to go take a risk unless they know absolutely for sure they have a quick enough car to get past without, you know, getting involved in an incident. So that's also a downside. Christopher Dowd, I was going to say Christopher David. Christopher Dowd says the start should have 10-second gap between each car. Race the clock for 17 laps. Mr. Bosch, I think it is, says this was the best idea ever. Must be trolling. KG says, fuck that, I hate it. Joseph Powell says, honestly, I don't mind it, and it's better than FP3 in a way. I mean, yeah, it's better than FP3, but at the end of the day, practice sessions are not supposed to be exciting. I think people really get this wrong, and it really does infuriate me. Not your comment or you in general. This is not something that, you have done at all. What I'm saying is, when people say, oh, practice is boring, practice is not supposed to be exciting. Practice is literally just practice. It's drivers and teams getting used to the circuit, the conditions, finding out what the tyres are like, all of that. Just getting used to things for the weekend. Really, I think in Formula 1, to be honest, I don't think we need 3 practice sessions. So I do agree. I think FP3 is a bit useless, but I don't really mind, that there's an extra session. I mean, I don't watch all of the practice sessions because, again, practice is not supposed to be exciting. It's literally just practice. Like expecting a training session in football to be exciting. It's just training. There's nothing exciting about it. It's just preparations. And I think, honestly, it'd be better just getting rid of a practice session than doing this. I just, again, it's nothing wrong with what you've done or anything, but it's not necessarily what you've said, but that's it is what you've said, but that's been said a lot more times before. And I was going to say it anyway during this stream at some point, because I've seen it online where people say, well, it's better than having another practice session. Well, yeah, but anything would be better than a practice session, because practice, like I said, is literally not supposed to be exciting. I just don't get why people try to get so excited over it. Rachel says, stayed up all night for this. The anxiety of the unknown that comes with a sprint weekend. Maybe stay up all night from this. From why could nap? Too nervous. A lot of people are unhappy with Verstappen weaving, which I completely understand. David Saw says, not sure I will bother watching the next sprint, and quali on Friday is awkward. Even though qualifying yesterday was good, I didn't enjoy it as much, anywhere near as much as I enjoy it on a Saturday. It just didn't feel right, especially with the sprint quali on the Saturday. If there's any others here. Astro Steve says, personally, I'd rather they had quali Friday, race on Saturday and Sunday to recover. Ras Ranch says, how about Friday, FP1 and FP2, Saturday quali, and 50% race, 50% points, Sunday 100% race. I think most of what you said there I agree with, just accept the 50% race, 50% points. What I would have is, say, a 2-hour-long practice session, one practice session, 2 hours long on Friday, and then another, say, hour-long one on the Saturday morning, like we normally have, and then qualifying as we normally have, and then the race as we normally have. That's what I would do. It's, simple. And then, you allow more time for the other series to have more time on track, possibly more series than the support series can join the Formula 1 circus and allow themselves to be a part of it. And then we get more, say, races from either the W series, which of course is the female series, or F2, F3, Porsche Super Cup. So it allows more time for them if you only do a 2-hour practice session and then allow the rest of Friday for the rest. I think that'd be honestly just the best, most simple way without, ruining the show. Let me just see any other comments here that need reading out. Still I Rise makes a great comment. Alonso loved this. He absolutely did, because he I don't think could believe his luck when he was up in 5th place after lap 2. If there's any final comments that we can read out here. Rowan, will the teams be able to gather useful data from the sprint? Not really, because the conditions are going to be different when the race starts tomorrow, because the race starts an hour and a half earlier than this session started. So it'll be hotter. There'll be way more fuel on board. And of course, the tyres react differently to that. The grip of the cars will be different. And no, it won't really be... there'll be some data that will definitely help them in their view to the race, but it won't be as good as, say, data from, say, earlier in practice where they were doing race runs and probably higher fuel. I think that's it for comments. So there you go. But guys, I will say thank you very much for coming along to this. If they do another sprint qualifying race, I'm probably not going to bother. Even putting it to a vote, because I'm serious. I do not like the idea, and I really, was just hoping that they would get through this without any serious major incident, to be honest, because I just see it as a pointless thing, to be honest. But, you guys vote for this. Thank you for voting for that. And of course, I'm a man of my word, so I've done the stream. Also, thank you guys again, coming along, sharing this video, sharing the channel, liking, all of that. And like I said, tomorrow I will be live 3 times for the real race day. Firstly for sprint, not for sprint qualifying, for the race preview at 12 PM UK time, where we'll preview the race, go through some data from qualifying on Friday to look at who is legitimately quick and who isn't. And then the race watch-along will begin at 2:30 PM UK time for the 3 PM UK time start. And then I'll be live for the race review at 8 PM UK time to review all of the action from the British Grand Prix. So don't forget to subscribe to the channel for that and hit the notifications bell also as well. Don't forget to smash a like button and share this video and channel everywhere you can. And as well, join my Discord server, link below in the description. Best place that is for notifications of my videos and streams. And also, we have almost 500 people there, and it's pretty active all the time. Doesn't really matter if the season is on or not. So if you want to join that and have some good chat with other people about Formula 1, then make sure to go there. But guys, until my race preview tomorrow at 12 PM UK time, it has been me, Shazza HD.